importantly. Today we're joined by Caroline Lumgair Wiseman, MD of Eventful, and her colleague, Operations Director, Claire Gardner. I've known Caroline through the industry for a number of years, always had a great reputation for excellence of service, for impeccable style, and for going that extra mile for clients. You know, a small bespoke agency, and respected and valued by many. But kind of 2020, year of COVID, the year of COVID, I think it won't be even called 2020 anymore. I'm sure it's been very challenging for you and the team, and as many suppliers throughout the industry. But you didn't sit still. You didn't bury your head in the sand and wait for the storm to pass. You grasped it by the short and you know what, and moved forward. You've merged the business with Cheerful 21st, a much bigger live comms agency. You've undertaken some interesting market research that I've seen some background information on. With your clients, you've worked with them to prioritize, to frame, to research, to package some UK-focused offerings that they're going to need over the next 18 months as they start to return to live. You've also written a number of industry articles, and most recently the one in M&IT magazine, which was very interesting, on venue sourcing. I think we shared that with everybody. If people haven't seen that, it's definitely one that's worth the read. I got some questions around that as we progress through this. But yeah, Caroline, Claire, tell us a little bit why the journey. Tell me what you found out. What's influenced your strategy going forward? I think it's be very interesting to hear from you.
Thanks, Richard. What an intro. I don't know if I can follow that. Claire?
Well, it made me blush.
It made me feel quite emotional at one point there. So it's been a hard year, Richard. It really has. And if we're going to agree, this would be an open and honest conversation. And I think everybody in the industry knows how tough this year has been for everybody, not just for agencies, for corporates, for all suppliers, hotels, venues. So they're honored to still be in business. I think we feel very fortunate to be in the position we're in a safe harbor with Cheerful 21st under the group, which is a listed company, EMA Communications. So I think that was a godsend to have completed that deal just before the pandemic struck. So yeah, Claire, of course, has been a wonderful support to me for 10 years, coming up on the 31st of May. She told me she wants a Chanel handbag, which is she might not be able to do this year.
I did ask for that before the pandemic.
One of our clients suggested that, actually, so it's stuck in her mind. But she definitely deserves more than that. So yeah, I think working as closely as we have done as a team for many years, the pandemic's brought everybody closer together, the entire industry, I think. So as a team, for sure, we're closer than ever, and we've worked, I think we both agree, Claire, harder than ever, which might sound strange, bearing in mind that obviously events have not been taking place, but we've been very busy with the postponements and cancellations and our advisory services to clients, looking at their strategy moving forward for their events programs. And of course, we've all got a lot to consider for the future as to how we embark on this new journey, the return to live events. So thank you for the intro. Claire, how do you feel we've fared over the last year?
Yeah, I think, as you said, we've taken it as an opportunity, which I think we've all had to see it as to how can we do things differently? How can we do things better moving forward? So it's given us the time that we didn't have previously to sort of look at the business, redo our website, which we're extremely proud of, and also develop sort of a new product for us, which we will go into more detail about a bit later. So we have tried to sort of see the opportunities in this time that we've had over the last year, for sure.
Yeah, and really trying to look at the focus on the positives, Richard, because there are so many positives to have come out of this challenging time, aren't there? I think we'll realize those in time and look back together and see this as a turning point for a better future. I think they're huge positives to come out of the pandemic. I'm sure we'll
Yeah.
all agree from a society perspective as well. But thank you for having us today. And I think what we wanted to do is to try and just have a very open conversation and to learn and share, learn from the members, and also share with them our insights and learnings from the last year, and specifically in the last few months, talking more so to our supplier network globally about how we're going to move forward together. But what we wanted to start with, if we may, is Claire's going to run through a few slides just to provide a background on Eventful, not a sales pitch, but just to let people know a bit more about our experience and yeah, our approach.
Great, that'd be good.
Yeah, this is very much just to set the scene for everybody, for those of you that haven't had the opportunity yet to work with Eventful, about who we are and how we work. So I'll just go through a few slides that gives you that snapshot. As Caroline also mentioned, last March we became part of the EMA Communications Group alongside Cheerful 21st. And the two agencies work alongside each other, offering complementary services and solutions to corporate clients. So that just gives you a snapshot there. In terms of our approach and how we work, we do offer venue sourcing, event management, incentive travel, and working collaboratively with clients on their strategic meetings management program as well. We're very bespoke with our approach. We work with clients how they want to be worked with. We don't dictate how you want to see your proposals. That is part of our initial briefing. We'll ask how you want to work and what's the best way you wish to work. Ethical and unbiased, we're completely transparent with how we work with you and our partners. And as I don't think we've mentioned, we'll be 19 years old this year. And we've in excess of 4,000 events planned over the years. So as with usual events agencies, we cover all different types of corporate events. We haven't yet ventured into the social arena.
I used to love weddings.
Oh, we did. We thought about it, didn't we, Caroline, and then decided no.
Yeah.
I think in previous lives we've organised weddings. Both
Yes.
Claire and I have a hotel background, and as
Yeah.
you do, Richard, we come from. We've had our hotel training and event planning training in venues.
Grassroots.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes. Yeah.
So this just gives a overview of venue sourcing and the service that we offer and the different areas that we touch on. So we very much like to work with our clients on developing the brief and helping them. We work with people within a company from EAs through to events teams. So we can be working with somebody that doesn't really organise events on a day-to-day basis. So we're also here to help them develop that brief and take them through each of the steps, ensuring throughout that we're meeting the objectives of that actual meeting. We do also offer full event management, including event design, planning and management, if that is required. We also offer incentive travel in the traditional sense, the group incentives, and we've run some amazing trips overseas for clients. And also this then goes into nicely our Eventful experiences, which was something that we initially developed as an answer to clients that were speaking to us about how they couldn't do the traditional group incentives and how could they reward and recognise those high achievers within the company that actually achieved their goals in 2019 but weren't able to do the incentive, which would usually take place in 2020. So this is something that Caroline and I worked on last year in pulling together a list of our suppliers that we've worked with over the years and asking them to work with us to help us put together experiences at each of their properties that could be something unique, that could be taken as an individual incentive that would still incentivize them, people moving forward.
Okay,
so this is
so
just
instead of saying, right, okay, 30 top salespeople, we can't take you to Madrid this week or to Ibiza or this, that, and the other. But I get it. And then so they'd be so disappointed. They've worked so hard to achieve their goals. You either postpone the whole event until the world recovers, but those people might have moved on. So here you are saying, okay, you have won one of these trips. Go and book it yourself, but it's not just the overnight accommodation or 2 days in a hotel. I'm jumping ahead of myself. You wrap stuff around it.
and they're all bucket list locations and destinations. So it's a trip, really. It's an experience that somebody would have aspired to do and to save towards, perhaps, but wouldn't have prioritized necessarily, Richard, because to stay at one of these hotels for 2 or 3 nights is quite an investment. In comparison to maybe taking your family, to Europe for a beach holiday. So that's where it's truly a reward, perhaps something that people would love.
It becomes personalized.
Yeah. Sorry, Claire, jumped in there.
No, and I think that's something that through this time we have realised that all companies were having to think much more about the individual and their well-being, and what do they consider to be a reward, and what's going to be something that incentivises them, and focusing on their well-being and their, what's important to them. So this is a program that can be very much as tailor-made for the individual as you want it to be. So yes, we have created these packages, sort of packaged experiences with these hotels. But if you came to us and say, look, we love the idea of going to Grantley Hall, for example, in Yorkshire, but we want to tailor make the experience, we need it to be a bit longer, or we want it to include this kind of element, then we can of course work with our partners to build something even more bespoke for you. But we wanted to give an idea and sort of a snapshot. So with that in mind, we have provided, this is a snapshot of our beautiful brochure for Eventful experiences, and one of our hotels, the Berkeley, which put together a package for us, which includes a nice selection of different things that they've kindly curated with some of the partners that they work closely with as well. So it's very much been a collaboration between us and the hotels and their partners as well, because we're all looking to instill confidence in returning to the hotels, and this is something that gives them the chance to show what they can do, and the relationships that they have as well.
And I don't know about you, Richard, but I think all of us are desperate to go and stay at a lovely hotel, and even if that's just to have a lovely hotel breakfast now, if you add all of these other experiences that they'll have throughout their stay, I think it's going to feel like the biggest treat ever post-pandemic.
Yeah, well, strange enough, and I like the idea that you're personalising these and stuff like that, because you might find this very strange, but I'm kind of not one to go into 5-star country house, all a bit sort of pompous and grand, because I don't like sitting around doing nothing. So I'd like to go to somewhere where, okay, I can go off fishing, or I can go rafting, or I can go off and sailing on a lake. Yes, I want a nice restaurant, a nice thing, but I want an experience.
Yes, you want to do something, and I think
because to be honest, I think we're all saying there is that the most comfortable bed I know is the one I've got at home.
Yes.
It always takes you a few days to settle into a hotel. It used to drive me mad when I was doing all the international travel I used to do. It's like the first few nights, I was never on the broader experience than just I'm not a spa person.
Yes. No, and everybody has their unique...
Chew me nails, there's no point in filing them.
Yes. Everybody has their unique preferences, right?
Yeah.
So to tailor and choose which hotel you might like to go to and which experience you might like to do, and like you say, to go and learn to fly fish at Gleneagles, or to explore the Cotswolds, which you've never had the opportunity to do, and we all know how booked up the Cotswolds is on the weekend at any time, and post-pandemic these properties are going to be busy. So I think also bearing in mind that we need to plan ahead, and that's our key takeaway for today is with all events and with these personal individual incentives, is we really need to plan ahead.
It's about learning something, isn't it? So like you said, the Cotswolds, foraging in the woods, walking here I am now in Worcester, so walking along the Malvern Hills, the hills that Elgar used to walk along when he wrote his music, and having some history. So I think you can now do, we had a guy on a few months ago, I can't remember his company name, and with a V, but they do specialist guided walks for corporates and groups, but so again individually, is that, as they said in MasterCard, was my old client, priceless experience.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think this is another opportunity that we have because of what's happened in the last year, is to explore this beautiful country that we live in. It's been so easy to go overseas, and I'm not detracting from how amazing it is to travel the world, and there's some amazing places, but we have some beautiful places on our doorstep, and we don't always make the most of it. So even though there's a selection of hotels here, and we've tried to get partners that are from throughout, you know, the length and breadth, in terms of, we've got Gleneagles up in Scotland, we've got Grantley Hall, we are looking to add some more properties as well, sort of Devon and Cornwall. But if you came to us and said, we love this idea, but we'd like to look at a different area or different hotel partners, then that's certainly something we can develop with you. And the other thing to just mention as well is that these packages and these experiences can be used to build an actual group experience. If you wanted everybody to take their experiences at the same time, so they weren't at home waiting for the Amazon man to knock at the door, or the cat to walk across the screen, you need a captive audience, then why not select a few of the hotel partners, have everybody stay at those hotels at the same time, and then have the virtual Zoom and team meetings that you need to have, and you know they're not going to be disturbed by the things going on around them at home. So that's another way that clients have spoken about how they might use these as well.
Yeah.
So just to go through that, and then we just wanted to show you very quickly sort of a snapshot of some of the client events that we've done over the years, both for venue finding projects and full event management for these. So as you can see from this one, it was an extremely quick turnaround for a conference that we held for about 150, 200 people in Cannes. That we worked with for this client, which turned out to be a beautiful event. It was actually warmer than it looks in that picture. Beautiful offsite dinner at Bastille de Roy. And then we had a great event for a fashion retail client of ours at Tobacco Dock, which was set up to look like Hudson Yards in New York and the New York skyline.
Know it well.
Yeah. So again, this is just a snapshot of some of the statistics from the research that we did and the actual event that we ran as well for this client, which was extremely successful. And they had a prom on the last night, and all those balloons are glass lit with LED lights and individually hung. So the production company hated us by the end of the night, but the client loved us. So that's that's a good thing.
Did agree they look beautiful though, which is
they
the glass
did
one, it looks a bit like, was it the Spanish guy Chihuly, was it, who did all the glass chandeliers?
more sculptural than
yes. Yeah. The one like the chandelier in the Corinthia, that one. Yeah. This was a conference where they did an extensive global research, and it ultimately ended up happening overseas in America as well. So we do work domestically and internationally, but obviously, as we're going to the insights and as we're all realizing, moving forward, the focus definitely for the short to mid-term is going to be UK domestic for us. So this is the article that Richard referred to earlier in M&IT. Yes, I forgot the name then. Was focusing on the trends around venue sourcing. So we talk in more detail about the race for availability. And Caroline, I don't know if you want to sort of expand on what we discussed in this in the article.
Yeah, I think that one of the key considerations right now is the fact that so many events have postponed, and that therefore means that diaries are quite full. So if anybody is planning to organize events anytime soon, just to consider the lack of availability that there will be. And with a lot of the international destinations we're speaking to, especially those key capital cities, are saying to us, the convention bureaus, we're chatting to the hotels and venues, their diaries are pretty full with those postponed events that have continually postponed. So those new events that people are desperate to hold, they really need to get thinking about planning as far in advance as possible, and then also capitalizing, and we'll get onto that point now, on the flexibility that is currently being offered by the hotel groups and the venues around contracting, which won't last forever, because as the demand grows, flexibility will decrease, no doubt. Just like the housing market at the moment, we're looking to move and it's an absolute disaster. It's a seller's market. So I think that that's really interesting to look at that race for availability, and to summarize that is just to get planning as soon as you possibly can, get provisional bookings in, contract with flexible terms, and yeah, just ready to start thinking ahead.
Let me jump on that a minute. That is going to be a major conundrum, isn't it? That on one hand now, there's the stuff that has rolled over from last year or whatever is sort of pigeonholed into places or slipped into places, and it's there, but kind of still in a provisional situation, needs firming up. And then there's new inquiries coming in that people are trying to get, whereas the venues also, at the end of the day, they need to secure revenue.
Yes.
There's going to be this melee of trying to sort out contracts, commitments, agreements, flexibility.
Yes. And we're in that unique position where sometimes we're speaking to a hotel or a venue, and we've got the one event on hold and we've got another wanting the same space. So we're having to manage and go back to our clients and say, we know that this is crucial, that there are people waiting, and we need to look at that contracting and really think about, if you're not certain right now, let's move that a few months later to a time where you think the risk will be lower, or you feel more confident and comfortable with going ahead with the event. But as the slide says, short term, we're already booking in a number of executive level and smaller events across the UK. So I think that really, and we predicted that a while ago, would be, what returns first, and that's absolutely true. Yeah. And also the focus on exclusive use or semi-exclusive use, because people feel that, to have everybody more self-contained and to have control over who's in the venue, and that it's the majority or solely their people is going to be quite a focus. And we've experienced that.
Guys that are listening in in the chat, if you can add any views or points on, experience that you're having, if you're now starting to book places, are you finding that it's easy to book, or is it challenging to book? And any comments on your contracts, just add it to the chat so everyone can learn from that chat. That would be great. Sorry, guys, carry on.
No, go ahead. Okay, let's go on to the next slide.
And just to highlight the point as well, obviously hotels are getting real pressure on the leisure side in terms of people booking for leisure stays as well, which is impacting availability for exclusive users. If that is something that you're interested in, hotels, a lot of them that we are speaking to, country houses in particular, are already seeing that they're fully booked up until September. We have had a few hotels say that to us already. Which is interesting. So next slide. So we were focusing in here on what the new fit for purpose is going to be when it comes to finding a venue for your event. Obviously, there's still the requirements over, is it the right size for my event? Is it in the right location? But new things that are going to drive decision making when it comes to selecting a venue is the COVID security and the hygiene policies and the protocols that have been put in place. So that is now going to be becoming part, and we are seeing it is becoming part of the decision making process, as well as hybrid events. So, for example, one of the events that we have now contracted for September, they've decided to take 2 venues exclusively and link the 2 to run an event virtually between the 2 venues for a period of time. So we're increasingly having to look at from the beginning, from the outset, what are the hybrid capabilities of the venue, from the basic to what is the Wi-Fi bandwidth, through to do they have the inbuilt technology for us to run a hybrid event.
So is that 2 venues in the UK, or one in the UK, one in Europe somewhere? Because we can start to see this sort of spoken hub. I think we've been calling it.
Yeah. This one specifically is actually just 2 locations in the UK, so it's a bigger group, which they didn't feel would be, even though currently based on the guidelines they would legally be able to be under the same roof. They wanted to be able to separate into 2 smaller groups. Feeling that would be more comfortable for those attending the meeting. So they decided to take 2 UK properties. But you're absolutely right,
south,
Richard.
One north or something like that. So,
yeah. There's slightly different locations, one north of London and one sort of south of London. So, but you're absolutely right. It's the kind of hybrid event that can certainly happen in international destinations within the domestic domestic locations of those offices. So you could have your office in Germany, meeting in Germany, in Berlin.
Yeah.
UK in London, and then linking those up, as well as having people attend completely virtually as well, which is something that we're learning a lot about through our colleagues at Cheerful 21st, who have very much been working in the virtual space for a number of years, but have successfully pivoted to solely doing virtual during this time.
That's great. So you can lean on them for the tech support and savvy.
Yes.
If that's required. You can bring them in and partner with them, and vice versa. They can bring you into stronger creative and logistics side of. Yeah,
absolutely. And the 2 sets of services have been really well demonstrated, I think, over this last year for sure. And just to add to Claire's piece here on the new fit for purpose, I think what's good to remember with the hybrid events, and particularly in that example of that hybrid event, 2 venues in the UK. This is a global corporation, and some elements of that event will also be potentially streamed to their offices across the globe at different times, depending on time zones. So they're just starting to look at, we're speaking obviously with Cheerful 21st to support on that side. So I think what's really interesting to consider as well is the budget, and that this can sometimes be 2 event budgets almost, if you are going to run a live event, and then you're also going to run a virtual event alongside, making it a hybrid. So depending on your production value, I know clients will know this, but I think it's to bear in mind that if you want to produce a high quality event, live and virtual, that you really need to consider that from a budget perspective.
Yeah, I think from a budget as well, it's also how you measure the spend. So we've been talking, internally here at EMA, and I used to talk with my clients previously from my agency, but it's also a way to, what part of the measurement is how many people attended, right? So if you've got a live event that you had 60, 70 people at, fine, you can divide the cost, and it costs us so much per head. But all of a sudden now, if you go hybrid or virtual, you've got hundreds attending, you spread that cost. The cost will go up naturally, but the cost per head touch points will come down.
Yes, and the engagement
that we spoke to,
Yes. Sorry, Richard. That opportunity for engagement is huge, and we actually have a measurement team now, which is so exciting and so fascinating from a data perspective. If you're an analytical person and a data geek like Claire and I are at times, I think it's been really interesting to see that that's one of the key positives and opportunities with virtual event is so much more measurement that you're able to collect.
Capture.
Yeah. Okay. And just to add, and I think what we've seen and what we're experiencing is that clients are understandably looking at why they're running events and the reason behind them and what their objectives are, and whether they can truly be best served by a live event, or could it be a virtual event would help them reach their objectives better, or would it be another solution? Would it be more of a moving image and video piece that would help them get their message across? So what we're seeing is that the events that are being ran have a lot more purpose behind them, and consequently they've got a lot more budget, because our clients are looking at reducing the number of events, but increasing the quality of those events.
Yeah. less is more.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
Richard, it's actually what a lot of our clients have been speaking to us about over the last few years from a strategic meetings management perspective, is trying to really refine their program and look at what, and oftentimes they haven't really had the opportunity or time to do that because they're so busy, the events teams and anybody involved in events with their day job, is to be able to sit back and look at the strategy and say, right, how do we now move forward, combining a program of live events and virtual events to continue to support the company.
Yeah.
And this last point that we talked about in the article is something that I know we've already covered on. So looking at flexible contracting, both in terms of the attrition, particularly when international events start taking place and you've got audiences attending from different locations, there may be the scenario where one of the countries is unable to attend. So flexibility in the ability to reduce numbers, and then running alongside that, the cancellation and postponement policies of the hotels. And then we included this quote, and I think this is it is a corporate that sort of submitted this quote to North Star for their latest Pulse survey. But I think this sort of summarises our feelings as well. The majority of hotels and venues have been extremely supportive and flexible during this time, and it's certainly those suppliers that will be looking to support and work with. And thankfully, they are the majority. That is been our experience, fortunately. But I am sure that there is some other stories on the other side of the coin as well.
Yeah, and I don't know what you've heard from your members, Richard, but I mean, we've found the majority of hotels and venues amazingly empathetic and reasonable when it's come to, and fair when it's come to negotiations. They have been, like Claire said, I think the odd example who've been very commercial in their thinking, and unfortunately, I think that will affect them in the future.
In the long run, yeah. I mean, what we're hearing, again, this comes down to potentially the conundrum that you can see in the future is a lot of people, a lot of venues were sort of said, okay, yes, we understand COVID, so we'll give you postponement. So, you know, you have £40,000 deposit tied up with us. We'll roll that over till next year.
Yes.
But it's hard to try and tell a corporate that, because we might not be doing that event next year. That might be a specific event. So then how we use that funding, and I think that's still got to come up about, can we reuse that? Can't we use it? Can we purpose it? Because within organization, it comes from different divisions of businesses. So, in an ideal world, you get your money back and then you'd go out and book again, but of course they want to retain that. Yes. And make that used.
Yes, we've had one event, Richard, that was due to be held in May 2020, and obviously cancelled about 6 to 8 weeks beforehand, as we realised how serious the pandemic was, and the first lockdown began, and that has now, we're on its fourth postponement, the same event, and it will now take place in May 2022, and that's 4 moves of dates. 4 negotiations, and they've now paid an additional sum on top of their already 90% deposit to secure that 4th postponement. So, I mean, that, this whole period we've been moving these events, and it's been a big collaboration between the venues, the agency, the corporates, but overall, I think we're very impressed with how venues and hotels have handled this.
Yeah. And on the corporate side, one of the challenges that we were talking about is that currently now everyone is so busy delivering virtual events. They're now starting to look at coming back to live and starting to think about hybrid events and everything else. But that's another level of work, another pressure. And what's that going to, and another thing that they need to learn, because a hybrid model or a production, it's not a room set with a camera and a presentation, like sorry to simplify a conference with a few speakers and a slideshow and a bit of video, but now it is full on production, and it's posting things out, it's talking to the speakers need to be trained very differently, so that's why we're sort of talking about the much bigger challenge, whereas your key stakeholders in the organization, so our members' challenges to their budget holders, their C-suite, whoever it is, don't quite get that and understand that. So they've got that communication challenge going on internally, as well as finding the suppliers and the venues that can facilitate this and making sure that it's a great show.
Yes, and I think we've all learned together. And like you say, I think there are more people involved on the client side now. There are more divisions involved, and you've got comms and marketing, you've got events, you've got HR, we've got learning and development. I mean, we're dealing with so many different roles within a corporation to put together potentially just one event. And that's always been the case in a way, but I think now, like you say, with pre-record, speaker training, there's so much to running a successful, especially a high level production or hybrid event. So
yeah, and I really feel that we're still at the, whilst we've gone through the eye of the storm, we're still now in a whole world of, a new roadmap to take this forward and to evolve our industry.
Yes.
Enormously. I think there's massive opportunity. That's the way I would always see these.
Yes.
Where there's mayhem, there's opportunity, everything else, and that's where I see these opportunities. But it's tough. It will be tough, and it will be tough for a good 12, 18 months before we say, okay, right, this becomes the norm. So like virtual events, we've got used to these now. Now we have another wave of it, and there's all that sort of transition.
And I think we're all in a good position, Richard, your corporate members and ourselves as well as agents to really look at the benefits of what has been achieved through the virtual side of things, and then try to now translate that and evolve that back into live and as a combination with live. So it's exciting, like you say, they're great opportunities. And now with all of that measurement that we can tap into as well, and to bring that and roll that into live events too, with a virtual element. I mean, there's a lot of ways that we can mix it up.
Yeah, an experiences I've had years and years ago is when you talk to certain people about certain things, an analyst or something else, you'll say, oh, it's all made on things. People talk about passion, assumption. Show me the data. Show me the numbers that support the argument, everything else. And I think that's what's good coming out of with the technology. We're now getting a lot more data. Claire, you mentioned earlier about, we talk to clients, okay, is an event the right solution? So do we turn that into another online comms, a piece of video, something or other? Emma in the chats talked about, she's agreeing with you, Claire, about, that they're very much seeing much more focus on objectives and purpose. So why are we doing this? What do we want to achieve? How are we going to measure this? Has it been successful, and can we justify that spend afterwards? And another one of our members talked about segmenting. They're going through a process at the moment about segmenting their activities. So what they were doing live in the past, what they've now done in the hybrid, the virtual world, which was probably more than twice the number of events than they had done live previously. This is a very big financial institution. And then saying, okay, going forward, what really has to be live? What could remain virtual? What return have we got on that investment in the virtual world? And then what does become hybrid? So, again, now you're starting to segment down your event profile.
Yes. And that's part of that strategic meetings programming. And I think what's interesting is to look at what will remain as live events as being huge opportunities to invest in those events and really now think through those objectives more than ever. Especially because employee engagement is at an all-time low across most firms. So we really do need to focus on that moving forward. And live events, as we know, are a key way to reward and recognize and include our staff and make them feel far more engaged and part of the organization.
Yeah, I mean, I think this great, communication needs to be done internally first, and that's either for the recognition, but bringing people together to sort of say, okay, guys, we're as a company, we're sort of kind of coming through the pandemic. Some businesses have done extremely well. Financial institutions, legal institutions, you know, they haven't lost millions and billions of pounds. It's, you know, it's the service providers. But we're getting through this. We now need to come together, work together. We need to reorganize how we're going to work in the future.
Yes.
Because it's going to be different. You know, I think one of the great things for the workforce is that companies have found, you know what, people can work virtually. So we can be more flexible.
Yes.
Our requirements of people. You know, perhaps people would do like sort of work, okay, I'll go into the office 2 days a week and work from home 3 days a week. I can adjust my working time. I can be working at 10 o'clock at night. As long as I get my work done and I'm productive, that's the most important factor there.
Yeah, I think that I saw on the news this morning, I think today the government's releasing a report on hybrid working and how the office environment is going to change moving forward. So I think that's going to be a very interesting document to read and hear a bit more about on the news, for sure.
Yeah.
And all of the companies that are coming out now with their policies on flexible working moving forward, it's going to affect so much of how we live. So even just HSBC, I think a couple of days ago announced, you know, that they're losing or dropping 2/3 of their office space. So I think those kinds of announcements, it's just going to change the way we live. I mean, that has immediately affected around 10,000 people. And every company, if every company is just a little bit more flexible moving forward, our lifestyles are going to change enormously. And that has an immediate impact on events as well.
Yeah, and I think something else that we've seen, I think, was it Goldman Sachs said they were opening offices in Birmingham? We might just see, you know, previously as a country, it has been very London centric, where maybe now we'll see a bit more of it being diluted out to other areas within the UK in terms of, you know, the workforce. So it's going to be very interesting few years ahead for sure.
A lot of movement, in every way.
So we did want to sort of share some statistics, which I'm sure some of you have already seen, which was the CNIT State of the Industry that was released earlier this year. But I think it gives this gives a very good snapshot, and I think in terms, and I think you agree, Caroline, in terms of what these results show, this is sort of where we're still seeing our clients talking about when they're looking to return to live. So
go ahead, Chris.
Yeah, and then just to look at international events and to talk a bit more about incentives, as we mentioned earlier, people weren't able to run their incentives last year, so it was interesting to see these results. And then in conjunction with the North Star pulse survey that they did back in March, and what different solutions people were coming, what different companies and solutions that were being used. It's been interesting to sort of see from the individual incentive travel, where obviously Eventful experiences sit, that this is something particularly speaking to our hotel partners, they've seen a huge increase in North America, and the North American market is sometimes a good indication of what we might see here down the line as well. So they've seen a big uplift in the individual incentive market. So, you know, we wanted to address that need and offer Eventful experiences.
How are you, when you're talking to your clients about your Eventful experiences, how are you addressing what I would say then is this psychological connection to the incentive? So, because, you know, with an incentive, you will say, okay, what's the objective? Yes, it's to reward and recognize individuals who've achieved and overachieved their targets that they were set, or this, that, and the other, but generally built around sales and relationship management targets. But part of the corporate reason is that we'd like to bring these people together because we want to rah them up. There's a few pieces of communication going on. There's a bit of backslapping and networking, and we want them to feel, you know, part of the community within the organization. So that's all that touch of, you know, 30, 40, 60, 200 people together.
Yes.
You know, you all see those American videos and we go, you know, turning around and saying, hey guys, you know, here's a brochure of experiences you've achieved, please choose one. And one could be, you know, yeah, I'm a Grantley man of fly fishing and the other, you know, I'm whitewater rafting down the River Wye, or I'm jumping off cliffs in the Welsh, off the Welsh coastline, things that I'd love to do. But of course, that's me and perhaps my family, perhaps a family experience. But how do I connect the emotion and the recognition for an organization than when I would with the being as a group? So is it a stopgap, or is it a replacement? Is it an evolution? Interesting.
Well, that's a fascinating question, because I think it is an evolution, and the clients that we've been speaking to have given some really interesting feedback on that, haven't they, Claire? And I think you're right. You're talking about bridging the gap between that recognition and the networking opportunity and visibility to senior executives. You could be standing on the beach in St. Lucia and having spent several days with them and their wife or their family, and if it's a partner event, that's a very different experience to, of course, going away with your own family or with a guest of your choice for a couple of days or 3 days to a beautiful in the UK. But I think incentives were going down the route of being more and more personalized. This takes it to another level in terms of personalization, in that somebody can choose their own destination. They can choose when they want to go within a time frame, I guess, that the client sets. Choose who they go with. So they're positives in that respect. But of course, what you're saying about bridging the gap is that's the communications plan. And we're consulting with clients about how to be far more creative and strategic around how to communicate and reward and recognize that person individually, not just with the reward, and how do you make them feel the way that they did feel, being recognized as part of a group trip. So yeah, that's been an interesting challenge, but one that we've definitely cracked in a number of situations with clients. And that's how, we work together and collaborate on those communication plans.
Yeah, and it's building in other solutions as well as the experiences. So we've spoke with some clients around how they communicate this and how they actually launch it, the individual incentives. You could have a virtual group launch event, so it gets launched on a group level. Yeah. Some of the amazing activities that you just referred to, Richard, one of the solutions that we have is working with the moving image team at Cheerful 21st, is asking everybody just shoot a short clip of you doing your experience and what you enjoyed, and then a video could be produced at the end when everybody's done their experiences that shows what everybody got to do, and then that can be part of the story moving forward, and help contribute to continuing that message of rewarding and recognizing these people, because then they'll be getting the visibility with other colleagues within the company. So
that's a great idea.
Yeah, so
and I like that, because then you continue the story, don't you? That's the whole thing about that engagement. And
yes, and that engagement and that communication plan are so key. And it's a part that some clients, I think, and that we've worked with as well, haven't necessarily focused on enough, but wanted to. And it's all, the great thing about this last year is we've all learned together in so many different ways about virtual, about using moving image more, doing more pre-records, and that again can be incorporated into live events moving forward, especially from the pre-comms perspective.
Yeah. Okay. One of the things that I've said for a while, and it's great to hear and engage with industry people and hear where the story's going, and I can see it evolving as I look at sort of the bigger picture. That I always said event management, that's what we did. That's a process. That's logistics management. You need to do that. It's like parcel delivery. I think that sounds awful, but at the end of the day, it's a process.
Yeah.
And we need to know the process. Then we focus on why we were doing the events. And that's event marketing, and that's where again you've seen our name, so I spoke about that for many years with my agency, and it's all about the why and the purpose. So you see all that still coming through.
Yes.
I'd even now, and I've said this a few times, I'd put the event aside and start calling this engagement marketing, because it's all about engaging your audience, engaging your customers, engaging with your employees. And I think you're absolutely right that it needs to be through a number of disciplines. It's not just the live. It's the virtual, it's the online, and all this stuff now starts to come together and integrate as one.
You're absolutely right, Richard. And it's having
that's
that
where the excitement is.
view. Yes, sorry.
No, no, just saying that's where the excitement is the future.
For sure. Yes, we totally agree, don't we, Claire?
Yeah, definitely. And I think there's more, again, going back to a point we made earlier about the focus on the individual. And, you know, we've sort of recognized, particularly through the virtual world, that everybody learns different ways as well. So when we're talking around engagement, some people engage more with the visual, some people engage more with the audio, some people are more touch and feel. So we're having to look at multi-channel marketing for all, you know, for all events, in order to ensure that everybody feels like they're being engaged and talked to directly. So there's a lot that we have sort of gathered knowledge-wise over this time.
Okay, so it's all about sort of individualization.
Yeah, for the individual to feel like that they are the one that's
the most important person in the room.
Exactly.
We all want to feel like that, don't we?
Yes.
And it leads us nicely on to saying that the future is going to be more about choice as well. You know, some people personally will be hesitant to travel, and even if a live event is being hosted, you know, how do we engage that person who isn't comfortable or perhaps can't, for a number of reasons, travel to the event? That's where, you know, I think we foresee that virtual and hybrid are with us for a long time to come.
Yeah, well, that's interesting. I know I guess I need to stop wrapping up now, but the inclusion and exclusion is a very interesting discussion, and we've been working within the EMA that we've been set up a subcommittee now around diversity and inclusivity for a number of different reasons and everything else. But you're absolutely right. There are things people can't do or don't want to do because of personal situations, but they mustn't then feel excluded from that. And there can be many reasons. And I don't think, again, as companies, we look at that enough, but it's something that we as EMA are looking at on behalf of our members, and we're discussing this and working on, you know, more inclusive situations to be able to help to communicate and engage with our members. And then our members engage with their clients, customers, and members or employees throughout their organisation.
Sounds fascinating, Richard.
Yeah, guys, it's been an absolute pleasure chatting to you. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Talk all day. Thank you, Richard.
Yeah, obviously we'll Priya will follow up with you with getting some information that we can share with the members, post on the website to push out there. And yeah, thank you very much indeed.
Thanks, Priya.